This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmersday, March 24th, 2025. On the show today, news and listener questions. Then in our main segment, Jim and special guest Paul Krieger finish our story on Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge. I really mean it this time. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that diaries are useless because you still have those feelings, but now there's evidence. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
It's going well, Len. And by the way, you speak of diaries. The truly great Academy Award-winning comedian Stephen Wright has an amazing diaries-related bit. You ever hear this?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. Well, it starts off with, I still have my diaries from when I was a newborn. For day one, it says, still tired from the move. And then for day two, it says, everyone here talks to me like I'm a moron. So, by the way, did you ever hear the story about how Stephen Wright effectively broke through, became one of the top comedians? I mean, he's working in Boston at a comedy club, and the talent booker for The Tonight Show, his kid got into Emerson. So kid and dad fly out. He gets him settled in his hotel room. The talent booker has a red eye back to LA. So like he said goodbye to his son. It's like, I got an hour to kill. I'll go to a Boston comedy club. And so he's there. And Stephen Wright comes on stage and kills. And this guy is literally sitting at the bar with his garment bag. And it's like, oh my God. and so Steve comes off stage and this guy clutching a bag runs up to him and it's like, you're wonderful. I'm the talent booker of The Tonight Show. I left all my business cards back in Burbank. I'm going to call you tomorrow. You need to give me your phone number. And he thinks, this is a crazy person.
Yeah, this is a crazy guy in Boston at a bar. Yeah.
But he's like, all right, I'll give you the phone number. But Steve is still living at home with his parents. God. The next day, his mom goes into his room, Stephen, there's somebody on the phone. And it's like, and he, sure enough, he's called from Burbank. And it's like, so he saw him on Sunday night. The phone call's on Monday. Thursday night, Stephen Wright is on The Tonight Show and kills. And in fact, does so well, Johnny brings him back the next night. And they never do that. And from that point forward, he became this huge comic.
I mean, the good thing is like, he gets the call on a Sunday or Monday. He doesn't, and he goes on Thursday. He doesn't have time to be nervous.
This is true. But at the same time, I love so much of what Stephen Wright used to do. The effect of, he walked into a restaurant that had a sign up that said breakfast anytime. And he said, okay, I want scrambled eggs during the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Just love his stuff.
The one I keep coming back to is everything's walking distance if you have the time.
There we go.
All right. Also with us today is Paul Krieger, Member Relations Manager at our sponsor, DVCRentalStore.com, here to talk about the next Disney DVC Lakeside Lodge. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thanks, Jim and Len. Long-time listener, first-time caller, so it's great to chat with you guys.
Cool. And we appreciate your support, too. Onward we go. A quick get well soon to our friend Sam Mariachi, who, I'm not making this up, I swear, was rehearsing a presentation for 2,500 people when he attempted a David Lee Roth-style leap off the stage doing a split in the air as the finale and broke his leg on the landing. Get well soon, Sam.
Okay.
That's one jump, man. All right, on to our subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/Jim Hill Media, including Elvin Torres, Crush on the Magic, Anne-Marie Frerich, Joshua Intriligator, Michael Pombrowski, and Penny Aldridge. Jim, these are the Electric Mayhem's backup singers currently preparing for their summer tour that'll also record live vocals for their Rock and Roller Coaster overlay. They say the new Mayhem setlist includes songs with strong backup vocals, such as Rock the Casbah by The Clash, Self-Esteem by The Offspring, and Prince's 1999. True story.
Dude, excellent set list. I would go to that.
Yeah, sounds great so far.
Yep.
On to the news. The Disney Dish News is sponsored by DVC Rental Store. Have you ever dreamed about staying in deluxe accommodations at Disney for a fraction of the cost? If so, the DVC Rental Store connects guests with incredible savings on Disney Vacation Club resorts. Whether you're a DVC member looking to rent your points or a guest who's looking to stay in style, the DVC Rental Store offers a seamless process for both. And don't forget, they also offer exciting point swaps for unforgettable experiences like cruises and adventures. Check them out at dvcrentalstore.com/DisneyDish. All right, Jim, some news from the Magic Kingdom. There's been a change to early theme park entry processing. All guests are now allowed into the park and into Fantasyland and Tomorrowland as early as 7:45 a.m. for an early theme park entry start at 8:30 a.m. So 45 minutes before early theme park entry starts, you're allowed into Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. And from there, cast members will check magic bands before you get in line for rides. So it works kind of like an after-hours event or a party that way. I'm told this is temporary. There might be some construction going on elsewhere. Also might be for spring break, but if you're going in the next couple of weeks, just something to look out for there.
Okay. And will you be adjusting touring plans accordingly, or?
Well, the early theme park entry starts at 8:30. The thing that we're looking at is now this means, like, for Tron, there will be, hundreds of people getting in line even earlier in the day for the regular theme park opening of Tron.
Okay. All right. Interesting. If it is temporary or only being done for spring break, so
yeah, I think so. There's some construction stuff going on that I think they have to get done pretty quickly, and this is part of it. So.
Got it. Okay.
Also, Laurel and I were in the Magic Kingdom early last week when the new Frontierland DVC Lounge opened. Jim, did you hear about this?
I did not. I'm looking at the photo, though.
Yeah, I included some photos of the inside the lounge in the show notes. So here's the interesting thing. We got there around 1 o'clock, and there was already a waiting list. And they said, it'd be a couple of hours, on the waiting list. That's fine. There's enough stuff to do in the Magic Kingdom to run around for a couple of hours. Jim, it was 5:30 before we got the text that we were allowed back in. There were people that were just sitting there and camping out.
Yeah.
So a couple of interesting things. The lounge features Coke freestyle machines and coffee machines. Little Keurig 1 cup things, plus a small selection of chips. But it's also got chairs, air conditioning, and places to charge your phone. So I think. Here's the interesting thing. People were staying there at least an hour to recharge their phones and grab something to drink. I think the capacity for that thing is maybe 100 people the way it is. So I'm not sure if Disney's going to need to institute a time limit there, but it's going to be really hard to get in there in the afternoon. Right now, the hours are, I believe, 11 to 6 or 10 to 6. But if you're showing up at 5 o'clock and expecting to get in, I don't think that's going to happen for a while.
And let's be honest here. If you're a DVC member, you're probably the relative who gets people into the park, and it's like, lovely, I'll meet you in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And to now have this place to duck into and get a drink and get a coffee and get out of the heat. There's going to be high demand for this. So, oof.
Yeah. And, so what I'm thinking is if you want to go, you got to get your name on the waiting list fairly early in the day.
Okay. That's excellent suggestion.
Also, Laurel and I were running through Epcot. We noticed that Takumite, one of my favorite restaurants in Walt Disney World, recently launched a new 4-course, smaller version of its $250 per person omakase menu. This one's $150. It looks very, very good. I think you haven't been there yet, have you, Takumite?
No. But I remember from your earlier conversations about the place, I think how they do a lovely, lovely job there.
Yeah, I think this is one of the top 5 restaurants in Walt Disney World. Yeah, like top 3 probably.
Okay.
So excited to see this.
Yeah, that's interesting though. Creeping in 4-course, smaller take on their menu.
To be fair, the larger the full course is 7 courses, and if you're staying in Epcot for the rest of the evening, if you're doing like a 5 or 5:30 reservation, that's still a lot of food to spend the next 4 hours in the park.
Okay, so
that's fair.
Excellent point.
Also, while we were in Epcot, we heard cars whooshing around the track at Test Track, so that's a good sign for a summer opening.
Okay.
And Jim, we have a new name from Disney for the Spaceship Earth Lounge. It is called Geo 82. And Disney's released some concept art with that, and I've put that in the show notes. Jim, you'll notice on the left-hand side, you can see Luminous
playing
from the window.
Okay. And now
Here's the thing I was trying to figure out from this.
Mhm.
Where is the entrance to this lounge going to be? Because it's not outside.
This is on the second floor, right? This is the
Yes,
corporate
yes,
lounge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I did a number of press events up there over the years, and I want to say it's a fairly discreet. Again, it's a corporate lounge. A fairly discreet entrance off to the side there.
I walked around the outside and I didn't see anything. The only thing I could see is there are a couple of inconspicuous doorways towards the back of the post ride area for Spaceship Earth, and I'm thinking there must be an elevator behind that or stairs.
I want to say yes. I mean, again, if I'm remembering correctly, you get off of Spaceship Earth, and I want to say if you're facing out toward what used to be Future World, the entrance was off to the right, so might be worth it next time you get off the ride to just sort of get in and eyeball that space. But I would imagine they'd also have to be building some sort of check-in desk and that sort of thing.
I would think so. Also, our friend Dan writes in asking if there'll be meet and greets with ride characters in the lounge, as he's always wanted to thank the Phoenicians.
All right. Points to Dan. That's a great joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of other quick news things. Universal's Terra Nova Resort, the second Epic Universe-centric resort, opened last Friday. I'm actually staying there starting tomorrow.
Oh.
And we'll report back on the details. Looking forward to that.
Okay.
And speaking of Epic Universe, team member previews of Epic Universe have been extended into April. The word around Bar Moonshine is that timeline might include some early ride-throughs of Ministry of Magic.
Ooh.
And if that's done, then I would expect pass holder previews to start right after that. So we're looking good for late April, early May pass holder previews of the entire park. We'll see.
Wow. Okay.
Jim, one other bit of theme park news. Hershend, the company whose properties include Dollywood in Tennessee, have announced they're buying the Kennywood Amusement Park just outside of Pittsburgh. Did you see the news on this?
Oh, wow. No. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, it is. And Jim, this brings up an intriguing possibility. If anyone at the Hershend marketing department is listening, you could create a 2-park ticket for Dollywood and Kennywood called the Islands in the Stream Pass. I'm begging you, please.
By the way, I have been trying. In fact, my parents beat me to Dollywood 30 years ago, and they came back and they just raved. And this Christmas,
I so want to go.
Well, no, that's the thing. This Christmas, my sister and I are going.
Are you really?
Yeah. Well, no, we're deliberately going down because we hear it has an amazing holiday lighting package, and it's just time. I want to finally go there and see what.
Oh yeah, it looks incredible. The food alone.
Yeah. So.
It looks. Are you staying on site?
Well, that's the thing. I think we're doing a timeshare off property.
I was going to say, because have you seen the timeshares off property? Do you like pine as a decorating feature?
Did I mention I live in the woods of New Hampshire? Okay.
Okay, I'm just saying. Because Hannah really wants to go, and I looked at both on-site lodging and then timeshares off-site. And they're in the forest. They're surrounded by trees. Everything is built with wood, and wood siding, wood paneling is the decor in all of them. If you wanted to spend 24 hours in a pine box without being in a coffin, that was the feeling I got. So they all look great. I mean, they all look really well appointed. It was just, you know how the line from Beauty and the Beast is, I use antlers in all of my decorating.
There we go.
I use soft pine in all of my decorating. Yeah.
Okay.
Still, I tease because I love it. It looked great.
Okay.
Anyway, on to listener questions. Here's one from Giovanna who says, from the upcoming Villains Land, do you think Disney will include the Isle of the Lost and Auradon Prep from the Descendants? Do you think Villains Land will have the opposite of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, like they tried to do years ago at Pirates, but maybe darker? Evie, the daughter of the evil queen, is known for being a stylist, seamstress, designer, and Dizzy Tremaine, daughter of Drizella Tremaine, famously does Mal's hair to turn her back into her original villain's kid self. Do you think there's a strong enough Descendants following to support this? And Jim, I love the idea of an Auradon Prep because the class Remedial Goodness 101 with the villains, is an endless source of jokes. You could see a character greeting there, definitely. But is the Descendants strong enough as a franchise to have a dedicated space in Villains Land?
Well, interesting that you mentioned that, because they are actually casting up right now for Descendants 5. In fact, I was just reading that we're going to get to meet Mr. Smee's 2 kids, and I don't know if that's the A-list villains we're working off of there, but no, I mean, this is certainly an ongoing thing at Disney, and who knows if 5 does as well as 4 just did with the Rise of Red, Disney would be kind of foolish not to carve out some space in Villains Land.
I mean, we've got enough time. We haven't even seen Blueprint 1 from Villains Land, so we got tons of time to figure this out.
This is true.
All right, from Steve in Woburn, Mass. My girlfriend and I will be at Epic Universe on June 6th for its 15th day of operation, and then the following day, June 7th, we'll be bidding farewell to Muppet Vision 3D. My hope is to do a whirlwind tour of departing attractions, starting in the morning with Dinosaur at Animal Kingdom, followed by an Uber to the Magic Kingdom for the riverboat, and maybe Tiana's if I can swing it, followed by an Uber to Hollywood Studios by 1 p.m. at the latest to get in a ride on Rock and Roller Coaster, followed by Muppet Vision, ideally the final showing. My questions for you are thus: how realistic is this plan? How likely do you think it will be that I can get into the final showing of Muppet Vision? On the one hand, it's got huge capacity. On the other, it's going to be a busy day for the attraction. And I'm wondering if Disney's going to do anything special to honor the closing with the last show. All right, so let's start with the reasonableness of the plan. I would say this: for your Uber to the Magic Kingdom, make sure you get dropped off at either the Grand Flow or the Contemporary, because if you get dropped off at the TTC, it's going to add at least 30 minutes to your trip. On the off chance that Disney doesn't let you get dropped off at either place, I don't think that's going to happen, but in case it does, the Wedding Pavilion usually does not have any sort of access barriers.
Good suggestion. Okay.
Likewise, we want to pick up your Uber at the Contemporary or the Grand Flow as well. You can also check the time at which the next bus comes for those to go to your next park too. So if the bus is coming faster than your Uber can get there, take the bus. But the thing I wanted to recommend most was staying at a Universal hotel for at least the night before your Epic Universe visit, because they are running early entry for that. It begins on May 23rd, and it includes the attractions in Nintendo Land. So Mario Kart, Bowser's Challenge, Yoshi's Adventures, Minecart Madness, and also Stardust Racers in Celestial Park. So that's going to give you a huge advantage. You can get at least one of those out of the way before the rest of the crowds appear. So definitely do that.
And one other note here, it's when the Great Movie Ride closed, Disney did not do a lot of merch, but they did do T-shirts.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, that is the plan right now for Muppet Vision. But those will.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but here's the thing: they will arrive in the park. I want to say 10 days to 2 weeks before the actual close date.
Oh, so you got to get them early, yeah.
There we go. So just be aware, and if you got a friend in Orlando, send them into the park to get you one.
There you go. All right. Here's an email from Dave who says, why is Tron not part of early entry at the Magic Kingdom? We just returned from a trip and we're surprised that it waits for regular park opening. Is this just a way to bump up demand for Lightning Lane sales? Or is there something else behind decisions like this? Thank you for the great podcast and the touring plans. They worked great for us on this trip. Yeah, so I think, Dave, it really is to bump up Lightning Lane sales. We just saw Guardians of the Galaxy take almost 3 years to come off its virtual queue, but I don't think it's going to be forever for Tron. I would expect, like in the next year, it'll come off of, it'll be part of early theme park entry. It's a very reliable ride. It's not down as much as some other things like Space Mountain or even Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So I think it really is a temporary thing. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim and Paul finish up the story of Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge, with a look at what's coming with Lakeside Lodge. We'll be right back.
Today at T-Mobile, I'm joined by a special co-anchor.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Snoop Deal Double G.
Snoop, where can people go to find great deals?
Head to T-Mobile.com and get 4 iPhone 16s with Apple Intelligence on us, plus 4 lines for $25.
That's quite a deal, Snoop. And when you switch to T-Mobile, you can save versus the other big guys' comparable plans plus streaming.
Respect. We up out of here.
See how you can save on wireless and streaming versus the other big guys at T-Mobile.com/switch. Apple Intelligence requires iOS 18.1 or later.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
And we're back. Jim, it has been such a long road. I was a young man when we started this series on Reflections at Lakeside Lodge. And now we are all wizened. We are all older. But it's here. It's the end. It's the end.
This is true. And by the way, apologies for taking off the last 2 weeks rather than continuing on with the series. But given that the project we're talking about today was first announced in October of 2018, placed on hold in the middle of the pandemic in 2020.
It seems somehow
fitting.
There we
go.
Yeah.
An on again, off again approach. But that said, given that Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge, has not only undergone a name change, it's now supposedly called Disney Lakeshore Lodge, but also a shift in its overall identity. When this project was first announced, it was meant to be a mixed-use property. By that I mean a 900-room resort hotel where a certain chunk of the inventory was going to be available to DVC members. And these days, the info that Disney has put out about Lakeshore Lodge most recently suggested it's going to be a DVC exclusive property, which, given that the cabins at Fort Wilderness during their most recent upgrade also became a DVC property, This saga just took an interesting twist, which again is why Len and I decided, as we were finishing up the series, to bring in a DVC expert, one Paul Krieger. And give a little bio here. Paul is the creative director for DVCFan.com, not to mention the members relation manager over at the our sponsor, DVC Rental Store. More to the point, given that Mr. Krieger is a DVC owner at Animal Kingdom Lodge, the Boardwalk Villas, the Grand Californian, the Grand Floridian, and the Poly. Well, Paul has skin in the game, which is why he's been following very closely what's been going on with Reflections, Disney Lakeside Lodge, and now, of course, Disney's Lakeshore Lodge project. So to understand what's really going on here, and more importantly, what's trending at the Disney Vacation Club these days, we need to back up the truck a bit to the early days of DVC. So, Paul, can you give us a little history?
Yeah, Jim, when you outline the 5 resorts I own it sounds like I've got an addiction or a problem.
Okay.
So
there we go.
It's only a problem if you can't afford it, right?
That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. No, I've been following along with your series over the past few weeks, and you've been talking a lot about Fort Wilderness and Wilderness Lodge. And coincidentally, this all ties right back into the early days of Disney Vacation Club and Michael Eisner's vision for it. You know, back in the late 80s, Disney saw what was a massive rise in the timeshare market. This went from being a $3 million market in the late 70s to nearly a $500 million industry by the mid-1980s. And Florida, of course, was the epicenter of this boom, and Eisner knew Disney had to get in on it. But here's the challenge. timeshares already have a very sketchy reputation, and scamish wasn't exactly the Disney brand. So Eisner made the key decision that Disney would do things a little bit differently. Instead of locking people into those single weeks that you hear about with timeshares that are traditional, they introduced a more flexible DVC points system, which allows members to book when and where they want based off of availability. This innovative approach let Disney sidestep the negatives of the timeshare industry while leveraging the power of its brand. And fast forward to January 1990, Disney officially announced the Disney Vacation Club and its entry into the timeshare world.
And we know from the Buzz Price archives at UCF that Disney was considering this seriously as early 1987, like January. This was the meeting of executives where they also proposed things like the initial plans for Typhoon Lagoon and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, they saw the dollar signs and the writing on the wall, and had to kind of get in on it. That is when ground first broke on the first Disney Vacation Club resort, November of the same year, 1990, and then the company began selling DVC memberships in September of 1991. Phase 1 of the very first DVC resort, now the Old Key West Resort, opens in December of that same year, 1991, with the first members checking in, and this always blows my mind. I wish I had a time machine. They purchased 230-point contracts at just $51 per point. That is
sold.
Yep.
Didn't they also get annual passes through 1999?
Yeah, free annual passes for the family. I mean, yeah, I'd buy 1,000 points right now.
Right now, yes.
And Jim and Len, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to mention this little nugget I found on the internet when researching for this show. They even had a big yellow bus that looked like it was straight out of a ZZ Top music video. This bus shuttled guests to and from Old Key West and to the sales center they had. It was a whole production, and I shared a photo of it with both of you.
It is a ZZ Top bus. Yes.
It's amazing. Yeah. Ultimately, while some still call DVC a timeshare and legally we have to, I think really Disney crafted a model that set itself apart and continues to evolve today.
Well, but that said, it's important to stress here that early on, the Disney Vacation Club was obviously going to feature on-property resorts, but also units at places where people were already vacationing. I mean, Boulder, Colorado, New York City, Newport Beach, California.
Yeah, that was the plan. In March of 1993, we learned that Disney had bought land in Vero Beach, Florida, and plans to build a DVC there. 6 months after that, September of 93, the company reveals that it's also planning to build a DVC in Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Vero Beach is the only Disney resort I've not stayed at in the United States.
Really?
What?
Oh.
It's never available, which is insane because you would think like the off-property DVCs aren't as popular with members, right? But
there's some diehards there.
Yeah, but they stopped building after those too, right? I mean, the rest of it.
Yeah.
So the company readjusts its business plans to focus on parks-based DVCs, but those other DVCs are still fabulous. Like Hilton Head is amazing. Oh, yeah. It is a little slice of Disney in the Carolinas.
They have a cult following, I can tell you, and I personally love these properties, but at the end of the day, it's just not Walt Disney World, which ultimately leads to the demise of this idea. DVC ultimately decides to pivot away from doing off-site resorts and instead begins to concentrate on on-property projects, which is how we get the Boardwalk Villas in 1996. A year or so after that, 1998, we see a small expansion of Old Key West, and bringing us full circle, not to mention Disney announcing plans to build a DVC directly adjacent to Wilderness Lodge.
Okay, and now we're back to our series.
Ta-da!
Okay, now what I love about this project, the which originally called the Villas at Fort Wilderness, well, it borrows a page from the canceled Buffalo Junction project. And again, the original conceit of this project is what? The railroad workers who actually built Wilderness Lodge. Well, this is the building they stayed in while they were building the hotel next door, which is inspired by what the great national park lodges.
This is true, which is actually why that DVC, known to many today as Boulder Ridge, has the Carrollwood Pacific Room, which of course celebrates that miniature steam train that Walt used to run through his backyard of his home in Holby Hills.
And I've thrown a photo of the actual train, two train cars from the lodge in the show notes as well.
They look so small.
I know, but you were on top of them, right?
Well, no. Unless it's one of those bendy French people from Cirque du Soleil. But anyway.
Exactly. All right. So the Villas at Wilderness Lodge opens November of 2000. And then over the next few years, we hear about Beach Club Villas, also the reimagining of the Disney Institute, which is Saratoga Springs, a DVC resort, right?
Yeah, but, during this same period, Disney's paying very close attention to this new baby, so to say, Disney Vacation Club, and what their members are saying. And even though they're now enjoying having a variety of places on property where they can choose to use their points, members would like to be closer to the places they love. Remember the golden rule of real estate: location, location, location.
Which, of course, obviously is the theme parks, which is why in the late 2000s, we get DVC projects like the Animal Kingdom Villas. Construction begins on the Bay Lake Towers, and out in California, right outside of Disneyland Park, we get the villas at the Grand Californian.
Exactly, Jim. And then that trend continues in the mid-2010s with the villas at the Grand Floridian, the waterfront bungalows at the Polynesian, and the Copper Creek cabins at Wilderness Lodge. I think Disney Vacation Club found success in getting its members even closer to the places that they love and giving them a greater variety of options to choose from when it came to spending their points.
Was this also the time, Paul, that Disney started converting a bunch of rooms in the south wing of Wilderness Lodge to
Correct.
DVC? Was this around? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's essentially what we refer to today as Copper Creek. So that's when Copper Creek emerged, they converted part of the Wilderness Lodge into additional DVC properties, as well as when the original villas at Wilderness Lodge got its name changed to Boulder Ridge. And most importantly, in my opinion, it's when we got the beloved Bison Burger at Geyser Point.
Okay. All right.
This all tells you a lot about how much people love this particular Disney World hotel, the experience of being in that setting, back in the woods, alongside Bay Lake, the quiet, rustic setting. Even for me as a transplant to Florida, this area reminds me a lot of home, and I keep navigating myself back to it.
Yeah, I think the cabins are actually the best hotel room in Walt Disney World.
100% agree.
What's interesting is I remember when I think you and Laurel were first checking them out, and you invited me to drop by, and it was a fascinating setup.
Yeah, getting you to leave was just impossible.
Yeah, I know.
But Jim, it's 3 a.m. You've got to go.
There we go. But anyway, recognizing that there's actually additional demand for this sort of guest experience, the company begins eyeballing the site of the now defunct River Country as someplace they could build a similar sort of lodge. One, though it should be stated, will have some very key differences from Wilderness Lodge, and we will get to those key differences in a moment. But first, this.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
All right, folks, and we're back. Okay, we're here with Len and our special guest, Paul Krieger, and we were just talking about Copper Creek and Boulder Ridge, those DVC additions, expansions to Wilderness Lodge. And me personally, what I found interesting about those two projects was, well, the different design approach that was taken with both of them. I mean, as we mentioned earlier in today's show, from a storytelling point of view, the villas at Wilderness Lodge, now Boulder Ridge, had this elaborate backstory. Again, supposedly built before the main lodge and by railroad men. The building shared a same color palette and a design language. Now, Copper Creek, which again, Len had some real problems getting me out of when I previewed it, but it had a very different look. I mean, it's still rustic, it's still relaxing, but it's got a much more contemporary vibe. I mean, this is a modern take on Roughing It rather than sticking with that National Park Lodge thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think Disney's really responding to Disney Vacation Club members. They're very committed to keeping this contemporary vibe going. They actually just began, it feels crazy to say this, the Copper Creek is this old, but they actually just began the first soft goods refurbishment update on Copper Creek. And as part of this update, they'll be swapping out the pull-out sofa beds, which were previously there in the units, and replacing them with the Murphy beds, which is a feature DVC members absolutely love and have responded extremely well to.
Oh yeah, the new Island Tower DVC units at the Poly have the Murphy beds as well.
Totally, and thank you for bringing up the Island Towers. It is gorgeous. I actually just had dinner at Wailulu last night, and I think that's kind of a sleeper hit on property right now. But I think really, what you see in the Island Towers, which is that modern take on a room at the Disney Vacation Club Resort, very clean lines. This all having all of those plugs for your devices, that contemporary need. Yeah. This is really what we're probably going to see with Disney Lakeshore Lodge as well.
Now, what I found intriguing about that when this project was Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge, we got all this info about how areas in this hotel DVC mix project were going to be themed to Pocahontas, Bambi, Brother Bear, Princess and the Frog, really lean heavily into the Disney IP. And while I know it's still early and Disney Vacation Club is infamous for keeping things close to its vest, especially when it comes to design details, we haven't heard anything to this effect when it comes to Lakeshore Lodge.
Jim, we did recently get some information about the new DVC's water features, and I included a construction blueprint in their show notes. It does include a few nods to river country. You'll notice in sort of the top center of that diagram, that is a lazy river oval. Not only that, but it's connected to a larger pool, and it looks like there's a kids play area here, and this would be the lazy river, and this would be the main section of the pool. So, but the thing I want to point out there is look at the size of the water complex compared to the size of the main building. They're both about the same area of land. That is a huge water area.
And I mean, historically, Beach Club Villas has been one of the most popular Disney Vacation Club resorts out there.
Stormalong Bay.
Exactly. Yep. So, it's another huge selling feature for this new Fort Wilderness property. Speaking of Fort Wilderness, another DVC thing that's worth pointing out is in an earlier installment in this series, you guys talked about the Imagineers taking a third of the sites at this campground and then turning them into cabins. Now, this is kind of where the story gets a little intriguing here, is that Disney recently upgraded these cabins and then turned them all into DVC units. All 350 cabins are now Disney Vacation Club units. What's more is it would appear that these same DVC units are going to potentially be bundled with Disney Lakeshore Lodge in some way, shape, or form, turning Fort Wilderness into essentially the biggest Disney Vacation Club property at Walt Disney World.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because along with the blueprints we have for the pool area, it looks like there's 300 seats for table service dining, which is a lot, right?
And didn't you again when we were pre-gaming here tonight, Len? Didn't you also mention that in addition to the main building for Lakeshore Lodge, there were also additional cabins along the waterfront?
Yeah, it looks like in the site plan that I have, just like with Copper Creek cabins, there are lakeside cabins with Lakeshore Lodge. But here's the interesting thing. Instead of there being a single design for cabins like there is at Copper Creek, as far as I can tell, and I've got blueprints in the show notes, there seem to be 3 different cabin types. So if you look in the lower left corner of the blueprints, you see what looks to be fairly large, structures here. But then in the upper right corner, there's both lakeshore and then near shore cabins, and they're different sizes. Here's the interesting thing. I actually put a call out just for these ones in the upper right-hand corner, you've got the ones that are on the shore, and those look like cabins with a porch in the back. But then you've got these V-shaped cabins that are a little bit farther back. And I don't know if those are like one bedrooms that are connected, but then just have porches that veer out so you get a little bit of privacy on the porch, or what. I'm really interested to see what these look like on the inside.
Back in the Reflections days, we actually, I think we saw a little bit of concept art for these where it's like there was like an A-frame cabin and then there was like another one. And actually, when I look at them, I go, those look like the cabins at Fort Wilderness. Like they look exactly like in terms of some of the features, the glamping features that they brought into these newer cabins.
And toward that end, though, Paul, I mean, realistically, given that DVC does studios, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, could that be what we're looking at there?
Yeah, I think it responds really to, going back over to like the Island Tower at the Polynesian, they purposefully chose not to do 3-bedroom grand villas over there. They purposefully chose to cap that out at 2 bedrooms. So it's really, they'll claim that it's in response to, them wanting to appease members and just have accommodations that fit the number of guests they need. When it comes to cabins, we know based off of the point charts at Copper Creek and the bungalows at Polynesian that it's an easy way to make a room cost, 100 or 200 points a night.
Right.
Got it.
By the way, Paul, real quick, my sense is that studios are by far the most popular type of lodging for DVC. Is that true?
Yeah, I like to call us all Disney Vacation Club member point misers at heart because we all like to basically use as few points as possible and stay as many days at Disney Vacation Club properties. And so the best way to do that is the deluxe studios. But even with those, we've seen like the Island Tower, it costs substantially more than what we see with like the Boardwalk studios. And so I think Disney's responding to that as well and kind of bumping up these point charts over the years.
Okay, got it. And don't get me wrong. Again, as I stated earlier in the show, I really enjoyed what I saw of the Copper Creek cabins, and likewise, Len's been very enthusiastic about the new modern take over at the Island Towers. My only complaint about all of this that's going on is that, again, in the previous installments of the series, we kept talking about how Disney was constantly trying to extend the story that Fort Wilderness was trying to tell. I mean, we early on, we're going to get that cavalry fort that people are going to be climb into. Later, there was the Mark Davis Adventure House thing, or that outdoor version of Hoop-de-Doo that Dorothea Redmond designed, or even the Buffalo Junction thing, where guests were actually going to get to stay in an authentic Western town and then get to go see the Buffalo Bill Wild West show at night. And again, I look at the Lakeshore Lodge and these cabins. By the way, is it cabins or wilderness homes? I keep seeing them. What language am I supposed to be using here? But I see, when I look at these things, I see something that's rustic and relaxing and fresh and clean and new and probably a great place to vacation. Yeah. But I don't see much by way of theming and storytelling.
I mean, to be fair, you could say the same thing about the Island Tower at the Poly, right? It's not the same design language as the villas at the Grand Floridian, not the same color scheme, right? Not the same kind of structure as the main building. The Poly Island Tower is completely different in terms of architecture from the Poly itself. But still, like when you're there, it's still fantastic. It's just different. Laurel and I are headed there this weekend, in fact, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, you're really seeing DVC change the way that it builds these resorts because they're paying attention to what members say. They want that more luxurious, sort of deluxe plus property about where they want to build these new resorts, and more importantly, the amenities that people want to have in these rooms. DVC's taking all of this account. They're listening as they kind of plan this future of what the vacation club looks like.
Yeah, I get that. But to Jim's point, once Lakeshore Lodge comes online, it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle all of those wilderness cabins in relation to the regular Fort Wilderness. Not only cabins, but the camping loops themselves. Like, how do you explain this giant structure in the middle of the wilderness? So
yeah, they're going. They really want to sort of preserve that rustic experience by also kind of plussing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's this whole area of the property. It's what made Boulder Ridge and Copper Creek successful, and where this Fort Wilderness DVC property as a whole can really deliver.
And so this is how the story ends? Really? No Frontier Village? No Wild West show? What a jip!
I mean, Jim, you know, we still have some swampland between Fort Wilderness and the Wilderness Lodge that's undeveloped. I mean, if Lakeshore Lodge is a huge success, and I have every reason to believe it will, you know, Disney will eventually circle back on the idea of developing that part of the resort. So, you know, to your point that no good idea ever designs at Disney, we may still get that steam train yet that will connect Wilderness Lodge, Boulder Ridge, Copper Creek, and Lakeshore Lodge. I mean, at this point, we're basically like one more stop away from an Amtrak station, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sunrail. Okay.
Sunrail, exactly.
There we go.
Bright line stop. Anyway, that is the conclusion. Folks, thank you for sticking around with us. I told you we would eventually get here. It is the end of our history of Fort Wilderness and Disney's upcoming Lakeshore Lodge project. Thanks to Paul Krieger of DVCFan.com for coming on the show today and filling in the blanks when it comes to the Disney Vacation Club related aspects of this tale.
My pleasure, guys. Let me know the next time you want to nerd out on some DVC.
Will do.
Fantastic. Thank you. And that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our latest video is with Imagineer Jim Schull on the history of Tom Sawyer Island and the rivers of America. You can find more of Jim at JimHillMedia.com and more of me, Len, at TouringPlans.com. Paul, where can people find more of you?
DVCFan.com or the DVC Fan YouTube channel, as well as if you're looking to rent some points, DVC Rental Store.
We are produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey and David Gray, who'll be playing on the acoustic versions of The Grudge and Pretty Isn't Pretty with headliner Olivia Rodrigo at the Bonnaroo Music Festival on Saturday, June 14th, 2025 in beautiful rural Manchester, Tennessee. While Eric and David are doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim and Paul, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.